Hey guys, Bitcoin Owen here. Welcome to another show. Today I'd like to talk about some technical stuff to finish with. But first I'd like to talk about money supply and how the banks increase the money supply. So I will say it starts with a deposit basically of cash basically. So this is how ChatGPT explained it to me, and it was convincing actually. I was starting to believe that that would be fraud, because I asked my cousin or my sister-in-law, not my cousin, my sister-in-law, who used to work in a bank here in Ireland, and she said that banks do not print money out of thin air. That would be fraud, she said, and those were her words. That would be fraud. So I got thinking, how do the banks increase the money supply? So, like they say on X and Twitter regularly, like the banks increase the money, they continuously and perpetually increase the money supply until we have hyperinflation. So I asked ChatGPT today, how do banks increase the money supply? And it said that first of all, a customer comes and lodges money into an account. Basically, we say they lodge €1,000 into their account. So what the bank does is they take 10% of that and lay it to one side, and take the other 90% and lend it out. So they keep 100 euros and they lend out €900, and that €900 eventually gets paid back with interest. But on the books of the bank, it shows that they have a deposit of €1,000, not €100, €1,000, and loans due to them of €900. So the money supply then has increased from €1,000 to €1,900, almost doubling the money supply. And then with that €900, that gets lodged into that bank and other banks in the country, basically, or overseas, could be anywhere. That €900 eventually goes out in a loan, but eventually it gets lodged to a bank. Most people don't keep money under their mattresses anymore, so that €900 gets lodged into another bank account. Yeah, and that bank lays 10% of it aside as security, €90, and takes the other €810 and lends it out. So then we have on deposit we have €1,900, and loans due we have 900 plus 810, 1710. So the money supply has gone from €1,000 to, with the first €1,000, the money supply has increased to 19 plus 17, 3,600. The money supply has increased to, which is almost quadruple, with just 2 or 3 transactions. And that is how the banks create money out of thin air, and that is how the banks increase the money supply. The other bank, the central bank, they from time to time dip their toes into the bond market and buy sovereign bonds, basically, when there is no demand. When demand is low for sovereign bonds, the ECB steps in and buys bonds. That was well publicised 3 or 4 years ago in the media. It was called bond buying, by the ECB, bond buying, basically. French, German, Italian, Spanish bonds. Not many Irish bonds, because the Irish economy is quite small and their amount of borrowing is low compared to the French, the Germans, the Italians. The problem is now that European economies have reached, they're exceeding 100% debt to GDP. And most economists, traditionally economists, regard that as the limit, the borrowing limit. It's not possible really to increase the debt beyond 100%. If it goes beyond 100%, it gets out of control, the debt. And that's what's happening now, because the banks, the European nations are being forced to spend on defence. Trump and the American government are not willing to defend Europe via NATO any longer, and European nations are having to come up with their own defence forces and set up their own defence against a Russian invasion on the eastern border with Russia. Yeah, the great consensus cleanup debate is continuing. Antoine Poinsot. He said today on a podcast that he's only 25 years of age, and he's one of the lead developers in Bitcoin. I found that amazing. 25 years of age, and he's a central figure in the op return debates. I also attended this evening's Bitcoin Core Dev meeting online on Libera.chat. Anyone can attend, but I think participation is limited. Basically, you must be approved, sanctioned. You must be approved basically if you want to participate. But you can view, you can sit on the wall, an eye on the wall or whatever it's called, and watch basically. But you can't participate. And that's what I'm doing. I'm watching, and it's interesting. They finished. They reviewed cluster mempool. They reviewed kernel, and one or two other topics before getting into there were two pre-proposed meetings. One of them was to do with app return actually and transaction relay. They spent over half an hour debating the possibility of making a statement on bitcoincore.org regarding transaction relay and app return. They were saying basically that the Bitcoin Core team do not force anyone to abide by the Bitcoin Core rules. But you must respect the consensus rules that we have, basically, and you can't change the consensus rules until you have consensus. And we have our transaction relay policies, and they are there to stay, basically, and we do not plan on changing them. Something like that, not in those words, no, but they wanted people to sign, put their names to it basically, and post it on bitcoincore.org. And I think it ended without agreement. Basically, there was one or two people who were a bit who were not willing to put their names on it, and it died basically. Same as the motion to move the Bitcoin Core GitHub repo to the Bitcoin Core organization, take it away from Bitcoin and have it under the Bitcoin Core organization on GitHub. That's all for now, folks. See you tomorrow. Like, share and subscribe, guys, as always.